Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. Discover yourself, break out of mediocrity, and become the mom you've always aspired to be. Here's your host, Kirsten Tyrell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. I am delighted to be here with you, joined by a wonderful mother. Her name is Desirae Ogden. She is a mother of 4 and a breast cancer survivor. I'm so excited to hear your story and to share it with everyone. Oh, and also an author. I can't leave that part out. Because you've accidentally, from what I read, wrote a book, self-published a book.
Yes, accidentally. That's me, accidental author.
So welcome. Thanks for being here, Desirae.
Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
It's going to be fun. It's interesting to talk to someone and use that name because my little sister's name is Desirae, and we call her Desi. Do you go by any nicknames?
The only person I allow to call me Desi is my grandmother. I usually go by Des.
Okay, yeah. She goes by that a lot now, too. As she got older, she kind of dropped the I, and now it's Des.
More sophisticated that way, I guess.
Well, awesome. Okay, so tell me, how many years have you been cancer-free?
I will be coming up on my 5-year anniversary since diagnosis in August. So
awesome. That's so cool. So tell me a little bit about your journey, where you were at in motherhood when you found out you had breast cancer, and just kind of share your story with us.
Okay. It was August 19th, 2011. Won't ever forget that date. For a couple of reasons. It was the day that I sent my oldest to junior high. So that was kind of a big day for me. And that was the day that I received the call in regards to a biopsy that I had telling me that it was cancer.
Wow. Which
kind of just blew me out of the water. I mean, even after having the mammogram and the biopsy, ultrasound and all that, I wasn't really worried about it. I was only 33. There was no history of it in my family. And so I really just thought that it was going to be a fibroid or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah, I got the phone call, and then my world kind of caved in. Yeah. Right. Everything just kind of stopped in that moment. And I just found myself in this kind of weird alter universe that I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen next, because immediately my thoughts went to, oh my goodness, I'm going to die. I have 4 young kids. And I mean, I don't know why we automatically go there, because there's so many, stages, so many factors and different things. But you just hear that word cancer and your brain just freaks out.
I think I would go there too. I think, that's totally a normal. It's just a scary word. It has a lot of meaning to it.
It is. And it's not that I'm afraid to die necessarily, but just the thought of leaving my kids when I'm not ready, and just knowing other people who have gone through cancer and all of the, for lack of a better term, yuck that goes along with that. It's really scary. Yeah.
Wow. So how severe was your case?
It ended up being stage 3B, which, we hear about the different stages all the time. And there's also something called a grade of cancer. So mine was grade 2. There's 3 grades. So I was kind of right in the middle, which means that it was not super aggressive, but it wasn't just going to kind of lay there and be silent either. Mm-hmm. So stage 3. And that really blew me out of the water as well.
Wow.
I was like, how did I go from just fighting this tiny lump to stage 3 breast cancer?
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many children did you have at the time? Did you have all 4 of your kids?
Yep, all 4 of my kids.
My
you
oldest, said
that. My oldest, as I said, he had just started junior high. He was in 7th grade. And then I had 3 girls. And now I'm trying to remember what grades they were in. I think my daughter Emma was in 5th grade. And then Abby was in 3rd grade. And then I had a preschooler. Okay. I believe those are the correct grades. Wow. Could be off a grade there, but
but still, I mean, you had a little one at home pretty much.
I did. Yeah. She was 4. So
Wow. Okay. So what tell me a little bit about the process. How long did it take you to go through? Did you have to do, obviously, did chemotherapy? How long did it take you to get the cancer in remission?
Oh, a long time. And I still don't feel like I mean, even though I'm done with active treatments and all of that, I mean, cancer is just something that sits there in the back of your brain for the rest of your life. So you're always dealing with repercussions and things. But let's see, that was August that I was diagnosed. I started chemotherapy after I did a lumpectomy first, and then I also did the genetic testing to see if I had either of the breast cancer genes, which I did not, or at least I don't have one that they know of. I mean, there still could be several that they don't know of, but so I was not positive for that. But I started the chemo after the lumpectomy in September, and so I did 4 rounds of one medication. It's commonly referred to as the Red Devil, and it lives up to its name. It's not very fun. And then I did 4 rounds of another chemo med called Taxotere. Wow. So after chemo, then I had a double mastectomy and reconstruction, radiation, many surgeries.
Oh my goodness.
So it was probably about 18 months of active treatment and surgeries before I was like completely done with that. I also had a hysterectomy, since my particular kind of breast cancer was estrogen positive, which means that it was using estrogen to feed it. Wow. So I had a hysterectomy as well.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank goodness those 4 beautiful kids came before all this happened, right?
I know. And that's really something that, I feel sad about it, and talking with other friends, other younger survivors that haven't had kids yet, because then that throws in a whole new thing of, well, do I freeze my eggs? I mean, with chemo, you just don't know what's going to happen afterwards, and if you're going to be able to have kids. So that's, I feel really fortunate that my kids were here, and I didn't have to add that into the mix of all the decisions that I was making.
Wow. Okay. So you lived one of everybody's like worst nightmares. There's only like a handful of the worst things I think that we all imagine can happen. It's like losing a child, going through an illness, having a child go through an illness. These are like horrific things. Losing your spouse, anything with death and doom and despair. How did you get through it, aside from just like the physical being, driven to survive?
Right.
What helped you get through the journey that you've maybe talk about in your book, and your spiritual journey that went along with it?
Sure. Well, number one, God and my Savior. I wouldn't have gone through it without that aspect of my life. And number two, my family and friends. I had a huge support system, and it really, we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to do anything. I mean, we really need that support system for whatever we're doing in our lives. And so those were huge in my healing process. I had, when I would do chemo, I had what was called pink days, because I kept a blog. I had a family blog before, and so I kind of just continued with that to keep everybody updated. And so I started these pink days, so everybody would send me pictures of them wearing pink, and I have, I don't know how many pictures of family and friends, and it was so amazing to me to see people that I went to high school with, and like friends of family members that I didn't even know, that were supporting me by sending pictures and participating in this. So it was a really cool thing. I don't think many people get to have an experience like that, where they can feel uplifted by love. I don't know. I hope more people than not have that, but yeah, it's a cool experience.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it's key to the whole, not only surviving physically, but surviving that whole thing mentally and emotionally. So that's awesome. I think that's an amazing thing about humanity too. It's like we see someone suffering, and none of us really want to see anybody suffer. None of us want anybody to feel alone or sad. So it's cool that was that your idea, or something that a lot of cancer patients do?
As far as the pink days?
Yeah.
That was just kind of something that I thought of. And it's interesting with cancer, and the people that I've talked to, I think there's really kind of 2 roads that you go. You either don't want to talk about it, and you don't talk to anybody about it, or you like don't stop talking about it, which was me. And so, everybody's different, and everybody handles those situations differently. But yeah, I knew that I'm a talker, and I needed to talk through things. That's how I kind of process things myself, and it was great. And yeah, I had a huge support system, and people just, would bring meals or chocolate, which was awesome, even though during chemo, that was one of the hard things during chemo, was your taste buds are affected. And so even chocolate didn't taste good, which was very frustrating.
No.
I know. No, I could smell it, and it smelled wonderful. And then I tasted it, and I was like,
Weird.
Yeah.
You're like this isn't bad enough. Now
I know,
I can't even have chocolate. Come on. Holy cow. Okay, so 5 years in remission. Tell me about your life afterwards. And I mean, even just reading a little bit on your blog, it looks like the journey doesn't really stop when the cancer goes away. Because like you even just said, it's in the back of your mind. You look at life differently, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that was one of the interesting things that came along with the journey itself, is when I started, like when I was diagnosed, I just wanted to get in there and get the chemo done and get the surgeries done and just move on with my life. I had big plans for that school year, because I had just served the previous 2 years as our elementary school's PTA president. So I had been super busy with that. And I was just looking forward to kind of having a low-key school year, maybe feeding my crafting disease, which doesn't leave me alone. I had these plans, and then this comes in, and I was just like, no, I can't change these plans. We're going to get in here, we're going to do this, and we're going to get it done. And then that didn't happen. Things kept coming up, and 6 months turned into 12 months, turned into 18 months. And then, like I said, even after the active treatments and surgeries were over, there was this whole aspect of the mental game that I didn't anticipate, that again kind of pulled the rug out from under me. And I really had to face some PTSD with that, and talk to a counselor, which, I'm a big advocate for that now. I think there's still a stigma with mental health that needs to go away. I'm not quite sure why we have that stigma, because if we think about our brain and it controls every aspect of our body, like, certainly want it to be healthy. So yeah, I think, and you can, when I think in terms of PTSD, I mean, the first thing that comes to your mind is our soldiers that risk so much and suffer from that. But as I've learned through my journey and talking with others, like, there's lots of things that cause PTSD in your life.
It's so true. Anything traumatic. It doesn't even have to be as severe as cancer.
Exactly.
Anything that's rocked your world, it can, I've had bouts of that in my life too, just from challenges that happened years ago. Yeah. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So I want to rewind a little bit, because I feel like I jumped ahead, forgot to ask you maybe a little bit more about your family and how your children coped with everything, and how your motherhood role kind of shifted, and how you guys got through that as a family.
Well, my kids are rock stars. That was really my biggest concern, was how I was going to help them through the journey. I knew I would be okay. I mean, it was hard, and it was something that I didn't want to do, but I had no other choice. So I was going to do it. But I was really concerned about them. And like I said, I'm a talker. And so I knew that I would be talking to people about things that were happening. And so I didn't want my kids to hear something from one of their friends because they had overheard their mom talking. So I really tried to keep an open conversation with them, and just said, if you have any questions or concerns, I don't want you to be, holding all this worry inside. So we really, my husband and I both tried to make sure that they had plenty of opportunities to ask questions. And, we just really kind of used it as a time to teach them. I mean, I guess my motto now that I try and spread to people is that we can do hard things, and everybody can do really super hard things that you don't think you can. And so my kids are probably just super sick of hearing me say that, Mom, we get it. We can do hard things. But they can. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wrote the book, is so that I could combine my blog, and I also kept a daily journal throughout that process. I wanted to combine them both, for my kids, grandkids, so that they could look back on that, because they were so little. Like my Ellie, who was 4, doesn't really remember. I mean, she looks at pictures and she remembers me being bald from, pictures, but they don't really kind of remember all of the details of everything. So I really wanted them to have that. And in regards to like my role as a mother, that was hard. It was hard because I was used to being just going all the time and getting people to and from all of their activities and running the ship, so to speak.
Yep.
And, there were days that I couldn't physically get out of bed. And I think that was hard for everybody. I mean, it was hard for me. It was hard for my husband. It was hard for my kids to see their mom that way.
Yeah.
But they stepped up to the plate and
they
really
did hard things.
They did hard things. Yeah. Yeah. We did hard things. And I think the best thing for me as a mother that came out of that journey was the reminder that life is short. We don't know what's going to happen, and that I really need to be with my kids, not just in the room with them, but with them, experiencing things with them, talking to them, and making sure that they know that they're more important than Facebook or Instagram or the blog posts that I'm writing, Yeah. And I'm not perfect at it. I still get sucked into social media and all of those things, but it's really, I'm more conscious about it now, I think. And I appreciate all of the little moments, even if you could look around me right now, it's not a pretty sight here.
Hey, me neither. I just look.
Yeah.
That's just a taste. Everything's shoved in the closet.
Yeah. Well, we're a family of pilers, so we have piles of stuff everywhere.
Us too. You should see the desk. There's 4 piles around me. It's a good thing that we're just neck up right now.
Right. So I find myself not getting agitated about the little things anymore. They just, because I'm here, and I'm with my kids, and that's what I fought for. That's what I wanted to do. That was, my number one goal was to be here and watch them grow up. So
I'm glad you said that. I think even I needed to hear that right now, because on my way in here to talk to you, I was just like, we are a family of pigs. Like, this is disgusting. Why do we even clean? This is just morally wrong that our house is this dirty. Like, what are we going to do when we have a bigger house? We're in a I think that's part of the problem. It's a small space, but we're so gross.
Well, I have a big space and we're still gross. So.
Oh, great. There's no hope.
I think that, in talking with my mom, who's now in the empty nest stage, she tells me that I'll miss it, and I'm sure that I will. But, in those moments when you're stepping over everything and just like, why can't we put stuff away? And I'm probably the worst piler.
Me too.
That is. I mean, they come by it honestly. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. The reason I wanted to ask you what your motherhood role was like when that was going on is because I sense from you that you're a person who it would be hard to like relinquish some of that responsibility or let somebody else help. And I think that's an important lesson that we have to learn when we go through struggle, is allowing people to serve us and doing it like, and my sister-in-law told me this, I'm totally going to botch it. She learned it in a Brené Brown book. I think it was Brené Brown, that when you're uncomfortable being served, it means that you're not serving with a full heart either. Like,
interesting.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you take dinner to somebody and you're just like, oh, this was one more thing on my to-do list, then when somebody brings you dinner, you're going to be like, I inconvenienced them. This was one more thing on their to-do list. Right. But if you serve with a full heart and you're like, I genuinely want them to be happy, then when you're served, you're going to feel that way too. So I know that's kind of like a wonky way of looking at it, but
no, I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't you think that's important to learn to be served?
It is. And sometimes that's a hard thing. I mean, definitely in the beginning, that was a hard thing. And one of the things when I met with a counselor to talk about PTSD, she brought up an interesting fact about birth order. So I'm the oldest in my family.
Me too.
And she said, because of that, there's certain tendencies that you have as the oldest. You're used to being the one kind of in control. You're used to helping and taking care of things. And so that really played into my thought process, because whenever I would think of dying, it was always who's going to get the kids here, who's going to do this, who's going to make sure the dog's fed, who's going to do, like in my brain, I just didn't think it was possible for anybody to fulfill those roles if I was gone, and I didn't see how that was going to happen. And, I've changed a little bit. I mean, I still go through ups and downs, and the anxiety is sometimes, again, it's just a roller coaster, but, it's nice when I'm kind of on the downslope and I can really focus and say, yeah, it's okay. Like, these things would happen. My family would be okay. It would be hard. And I know, definitely not something that I would want them to have to endure. But at the same time, they can do hard things, right?
Yeah, they really can. And you're teaching them that every day. You're the ultimate example of that now.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you are. So tell me a little bit about the book. You kind of touched on it here and there, but when you say you wrote it by accident, was that because you weren't really like sitting down to write a book? You just compiled all of this information that you had already written?
So I never really have considered myself a writer. I enjoyed my high school English classes because I had great teachers, and I think I did okay. Mm-hmm. High school's kind of foggy in my
Me too.
my post-mom, post-chemo brain, know? But I certainly didn't have any goals to write a book or anything like that. And in keeping my family blog, that was really just a journal or scrapbook of sorts for me. It was just kind of keeping track because I didn't have time to do scrapbooking. It's kind of keeping track of things. And then when the journey started and I started using it as a tool to get the word out quickly to family and friends, I discovered that it was also very therapeutic for me to write those things down. And then also in combination with my journal, where I kind of went deeper into the things that I was feeling. So when it kind of got over and I was thinking about things and kind of with each anniversary that went by, and I would kind of read back and see where I had been, I just had the thought that I really should combine them, and so that all the details were kind of in the same place.
Yeah. And
so I just started writing it. I didn't really have intentions of having it turn into like an actual book that I would sell. Like I said, it was really just so that my kids could have that to read later on. And then the more I got involved in the process, the more these just tender mercies just kept happening. There are sections in the book where I include like my actual journal entries, and excuse me. So I was writing the portion on my mastectomy, and obviously I didn't really remember much from that day or the days after that because of the anesthesia and everything. And so I was having a hard time coming up with details that I wanted to include. And so I turned to my husband, who he keeps a journal, and
awesome.
And neither of us are super good at keeping it very regularly, but he does keep a journal. And I just asked him if he could look up that date to see if he'd written anything, just to kind of help jog my memory or if he remembered anything. And so he looked up his journal for that day, and he pulled up this like 2-page thing, and it was chronologically, like he had written time that things happened. He never writes in his journal that way.
Wow. And
it was just one of those instances to me where I knew that I was doing something that God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
That this book, for whatever reason, whoever it needs to reach, is something that I needed to do and needed to complete. And so just some small tender mercies like that really helped me kind of go forward. And I turned it into several publishers, and the first time I turned it in, I can't even believe I turned that manuscript in, because it was terrible. I'm so embarrassed that I did that, but I've definitely learned a lot on this journey, and kind of have had to flounder in a world that I know nothing about, and just really rely on God to kind of help through this, because it's definitely new territory for me. So the last publisher I turned it into, they really liked it, but they said that their cancer memoir sales don't do very well. And so that was kind of the push that gave me to really decide to go into the self-publishing route. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that I did, because I'm actually working with that publisher on another project, a journal that's coming out in December of 2017. That will be kind of like
time.
I know. That's what it was supposed to be this Christmas, but then things just didn't work out. So it's December of 2017. So I'm patiently waiting for that, but I'm super excited about it. I'm collaborating with one of my friends with that. But so anyway, I am excited that that's coming out, and hope that it will be a tool along with this book to help people through the hard things. And one of the things that I really hope, and because I think people sometimes look at the book and they're like, oh, it's about cancer. I don't really, that doesn't pertain to me. But really, I feel, and this is just my personal opinion, but I feel like everybody has a cancer of sorts. Mm-hmm. We all have times when the rug pulled out from under us, or, these things happen in our lives, and they're hard, and we don't know where the next step, like we don't know what the next thing for us to do is. And so that's really my goal in life now, is to help people realize that you can do those hard things. Mm-hmm. and there is there are places to find help and resources to take that next step.
Wow. So. I'm so glad you've done that. I love when people have these hard experiences and they take it one step further and want to share it and help other people, because I know that when I've gone through some of my biggest struggles, it's like, is there a book for this?
I know.
Has anybody felt this way before? And
that's kind of where when in the beginning I was trying to find books to read, and I found several really good memoirs and different things, but there was nothing for me, for someone who's heavily involved in my religion. I didn't feel like there was anything that really accurately portrayed how much I was relying on God through that process. And so that was another reason, like, I really wanted to have something out there for people like that really, he was like, my savior was my rock, and continues to be. And I wanted to have that, to really testify that that was how I got through this.
Yeah.
So
great.
So, yeah,
that's
but
amazing.
I don't know. It's been a wild ride. It's been a very wild ride, and it's full of patience, which,
none of us have a lot of that.
I thought I had learned everything about patience.
Nope.
Obviously not.
And apparently now we all have to wait for like another year and a half.
Oh, I'm so excited I'm very excited about the journal.
Let's have it be a goal that this podcast is still going strong at that point, and we'll have you on again and talk about the journal.
That would be awesome. But in the meantime,
yes,
you can buy the book.
Yeah.
Be excited about that.
Yes, head over to her website, DesiraeOgden.com. I will link to that in the show notes, but it's DesiraeOgden.com. And she's got the book for sale on there. You can have it shipped, or if you're nearby, you can go and pick it up, it looks like.
Yeah, in the Salt Lake area.
Awesome. Yes. Cool.
And I also have an ebook available on Amazon, so you can find the ebook there.
Oh, awesome. That's perfect. We all love Amazon up in here.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you the final question. What makes you a marvelous mom?
What makes me a marvelous mom? I'm glad you're not asking my kids this question, because we really get a different answer. What makes me a marvelous mom is that I love my kids fiercely, and I try to be forgiving to myself, because I make mistakes every single day, multiple times. And that's one thing that I try and talk to my kids about is, mom makes mistakes, and I'm trying to be better at admitting those mistakes and not beating myself up.
Yeah.
Those mistakes. And so that's something, at least at this stage in my life, that's what I'm working on, is just that, I do, even with all the mistakes I make, I do probably a lot of awesome things throughout the day.
Oh, yeah.
that I need to Yeah. Yeah. We need to focus on the good things. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I said, okay, I'm going to take this week and I'm going to just kind of write down all of the good things that I do instead of at the end of the day thinking, oh, I didn't get this done. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And it was kind of a cool thing to see, all the things that I was doing, quote unquote, right during the.
Well, I had Meg Johnson on here last week, and she talked about having a to-do list. To-do instead of to-do. So I was like, yes, we all need a to-do list. Like, yay, this is what I accomplished instead of, I'm terrible, I didn't get this done. So same exact thought. I think we all need to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing some of your story with us and all of that good uplifting energy that you've brought. And I really appreciate it, you opening up and talking to us. So if you guys want to hear more, go definitely get a copy of her book either on Amazon or on her website. I'll link to everything Desirae in the show notes. Make sure you leave her some love in the comments and reach out to her. And thanks again for being here, Desirae.
Thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you.
You too. And everybody else, have a great day.